Sorry, man, I'm burping up that Polish sausage. That was good stuff, though.
Yeah, I've got I think I only took 10 pounds out of the 200 that we made.
Lord.
But I know my dad has like another 6, and then my cousin still has like another 20 or 30 up for grabs. So
Oh, Jesus.
yeah.
So you gave us four packs? Or four,
Yeah, so
3 packs?
Yeah, so that's roughly
Pounds.
3 of them is about 1.5 pounds.
Okay.
So you got about 4.5 pounds. So
half-pound sausages? Sweet.
They're huge.
That's amazing.
Big old Polish wieners.
I don't know the feeling, but yeah, that's how we make them.
Went for growth this year.
Yeah.
There's our cold open.
Welcome to
sausage making.
I think before we start, we're all Chelsea fans here. We all have our own opinions. We all have our own feelings towards what's been going on, and we'll just have to respect and agree to disagree with whatever we say. I think that should be stressed.
Except for you and me, Collins.
Yeah, no, you can fuck right off, Matt.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's only fitting to start this episode off just with a big, deep sigh, because, oh man.
Oh, you were teeing this up so good.
Enzo, to me, looks like a more agile, basically a young Chess Fabregas.
It's a Rolls Royce, man. Gotta sell it.
Messi is the Jorginho of international football. That was a dumb take.
The flag stays down!
Welcome to another episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast, 3-point edition. We got 3 people in the house. You got me, you got Andy, we got Parker, we got Matt. Matt, how you doing?
Doing good. Had a nice fun weekend with some family. As a Maciejewski tradition, we always make our own Polish sausage. So got to see a bunch of my extended family. Miles kind of got passed around everybody, so it was fantastic having like 15 babysitters there. But yeah, so it was me, my aunts, uncles, cousins, making sausage in my cousin's garage. So just kind of like the old days how we used to do it, just before it was in a basement. Now we just upgraded to a garage. But no, it was good to see everybody. Throughout about, I think we ended up making a little over 200 pounds. So yeah, it was a good time. And then today was just kind of hanging out, running some errands, getting some stuff done. So yeah, just hanging out. Got to watch a little bit of the game this afternoon when little man was taking a nap. So that was much enjoyed. And yeah, it's Sunday night, so we're all here. Couldn't be happier. Parks, how was the weekend?
Yeah, weekend was good, man. Work is in that crazy hectic phase right now for me, so my weekends aren't spent doing too taxing for me, which usually involves sports and other hobbies. But Saturday I actually did go play in a pinball tournament, which was pretty fun. The only thing I hate, man, is like it just takes so damn long, and it's like the if you do well, it takes a lot longer. And so I was there for like 6 hours, but ended up taking like 21st out of like 60 people. So decent showing at the office. A couple bad rounds in there, but otherwise played pretty well. So that was most of my day Saturday. Sunday we went hiking. So went into Boulder. Kind of sucked because the trails were a little icy. So I had to kind of cut them short a little bit, but just fun to be outside and enjoying the Colorado air. I was in shorts and a long sleeve, for December, which is amazing. So I can't complain, man. It's just nice to be able to get out there and talking to some of the locals. They're like, yeah, this is pretty much winter. And I'm like, wow, really? And they're like, plus or minus, but yeah, I mean, we get 60-degree days, we get 20-degree days, but for the most part, it's pretty nice and sunny. So I'm starting to really get used to this, guys. It's gonna be nice. I'll try not to boast too much, but yeah, it's gonna be hard to I went from bad. I was in Minnesota. I was always progressively like 6-8 degrees colder and snowier than you guys for a long time. So now I'll be on the other side of that fence. So it'll be good. So yeah, it was a good weekend, man. Collins, what'd you do, man?
It was a lazy weekend. We'll call it that. We had a COVID scare in the household here. Son tested positive Saturday morning as we were about to head out to Highbury. Canceled those plans. This morning he wakes up, he's fine. Test negative. Okay, cool. Must have been 24-hour flu or something. So went and saw the art museum. I've lived in Milwaukee, gosh, I don't know, 25 years, 30 years. That was my first time going there. And it's quite the place. And I know Aiden enjoyed it. And so it was good. And you add that to 3 points here. You got yourself a heck of a weekend. I do know, though, I'm going to have to throw on a sweatshirt in a minute here. Our furnace cut out and the part doesn't come in until tomorrow that we need. So prepared. I wish I had that Denver weather, Parker, because it's about to get real cold. But like I said, 3-point weekend, beating Sheffield, finally beating a team that we should, which changes a little bit our mood from last week. And I do want to give a quick shout out. Spotify, check us out on Spotify. They do offer now a question and answer with every episode. Last week's question we posted: how do we fix this for Chelsea? How do we turn the ship around? We did get a response this week from Jaden. So quick shout out to Jaden, who says, sack poach, change all the youth team strategy to something else that'll actually work. No successful team has done this, and we have so many other issues. Also tell Hector I said hello. So real quick shout out to Hector for coming on the pod. Jaden, thank you. I don't think we're going to see poach sack just yet, but there seems to be some something brewing there, at least among the fan base. All right. Well, like I said, 3 points, Sheffield United. Rough first half, 2 goals, 2 odd. We'll say odd. 2 odd goals in the second half. Boys, what are your reactions to the win this week?
It's a win. We've said this before. 3 points is 3 points. Doesn't matter how you get it. Especially with the run of form that we've been on and the matches and how the kind of things have panned out, how we've looked. Got to win ugly sometimes, and well, we definitely tested that theory. It wasn't the greatest, but we handled our business against the team that we should have. So for me, that's the biggest takeaway. Like, on paper, we should have beat Sheffield, and we actually did. And in December, which we know historically has been just a dumpster fire for us. So it's good to get that. Hopefully we can take some momentum from that, and bring it next week. But yeah, at the end of the day, we needed 3 points. We got 3 points.
I was mad for most of the match, or very unhappy with how we looked, and just the lack of creativity, the lack of drive, the lack of scoring chances. I don't remember what the stat was. Collins, you can correct me. It was something like Sheffield has let in more goals than any other of the top 5 European leagues. Like they're the worst of the worst. And so you would expect a team like Chelsea to be able to, if they're not going to score, at least get into really, really good chances to score and then blow it. But it didn't even seem like we were in the mood to do that for most of the game. So I felt really disappointed with the team. And then I felt like, as time kind of progressed, I was like, I've seen this script before. We've dropped points to teams that we should be beating, and that we have 85% of possession, and we end up conceding on a counter. There was a couple scares in there, boys. It wasn't, smooth sailing. So then the relief came in. Like, the thank God we beat Sheffield, like, calm after the storm happened. And I was just like, man, that could have gone either way, but I'm very thankful. Palmer took his chance and finished it, and then Palmer didn't give up on a play that everyone kind of collectively thought was dead, was able to give Nico a little bit of a tap in. So 2 goals is all we needed. 2 goals is what we got, and we walk away with 3 points. It's positive, but there was a lot going on, and so for most of the match, it wasn't a fun watch for me. I don't know. I felt pissy, and my wife can attest to that. Where usually I'm a lot calmer when I watch it and kind of let things happen in stride, but I was just like, things were bothering me more. So it was the gamut of emotions. Typical Chelsea day, right?
Yeah, typical Chelsea day, and that's exactly what my thought was. And you said it. They said it on the telecast, and it was Chelsea fans have seen this script before, because we had, and I fully expected Sheffield to score a bullshit 75th minute goal to as it's still 0-0, and then we don't do anything the rest of the match. The first half was very Sarri-esque, where it was pass the ball around and no real pressure on the opponent's goal. But then I saw second half, rolls out, and it seemed very Tuchel-esque, where, oh, okay, we made an adjustment at halftime. We looked like shit to start the game. We put out a shit lineup, and then changes were made, probably cussed somebody out at halftime, and we looked more positive. There were just all these little flashbacks to previous managers kind of happening in this match that like you said, it bugged me. I was also very pissy during the match. But like Matt said, 3 points is 3 points. Sometimes we just have to take a win. I do really briefly want to touch on, because Parker, you spurred my memory here. What's up with the 4 center backs when you have 2 wing backs available to play? Like you said, Sheffield has conceded more goals than any team in Europe's top 5 leagues. They're going to play a low block. So why throw 4 bruising center backs out there and not an Ian Maatsen, a Malo Gusto? I understand Cucurella is injured. I understand, Reece James is injured. Ben Chilwell's still out, and you need some players to play for Newcastle, or, against Newcastle this week. But it's not like we have points to give in the Premier League. It seemed like an odd choice to me.
The only thing I'll say is we've seen it before. So we've seen Levi Cole, especially Levi Cole at left back, that has been, I'll call it an almost regular sighting. The Disasi at right back is where the really big question mark kind of comes in around me. And the only thing that makes sense is Gusto isn't fully fit yet. And I don't know if he is or not yet. But yeah, Ian Maatsen seems like a serviceable left back, at least for 60 minutes. So I don't know why you don't throw him out. He's got a little bit more activity to him. He's more willing to get down into the flanks. Disasi, when he gets on an overlap, seems awkward. It seems like he has no idea what to do, and then he's way out of position. And it flashes me back to like when Azpilicueta used to do that, when they were running like a back 3, and I'm like, dude, Dave, you got a mile to trek back to, and you got old legs, dude. You got to get back. Like, come on. And so I just, nothing really comes of it, and I'm just like worried that something's going to be exposed from it. So I wish we had a little bit more athleticism on those left and right backs, and I completely agree, man. I don't know why we didn't see it.
Didn't bother me at all. It's who we have. At the end of the day, it's who we have. Gusto has been out for what seems like damn near a month. So again, who knows if I guarantee he's not ready for a full 90. Could he have come on maybe in like the 70th or something like that? Sure. But I don't know. I'm fine with it. I think we always have bigger issues than just what the back line is going to look like, because we haven't had a set back line in what seems like 6 months. So it's like Parker, like you said, it's something we've seen before, so it's not like completely out of the blue. Yeah, I think the whole Maatsen thing, I don't think Poach knows where to put him. Because he is that Swiss Army knife, right? He's like the new RLC, right? Like you don't know where to put him, where he's going to be best at. He can slot in at a lot of different places, but you really don't have a set position for him. So we know that he can play kind of that left back and be tolerable. But you've seen Colwell do it on a much more consistent basis this season. So to me, I think you give him that nod. And with James and Gusto, like we've seen Disasi play right back, I think more than we all would care to see, but it's just what we have to work with right now. So I'm not upset about it. It's just kind of where we're at right now. It's who we had available to us, so that's who we go with.
I think the smoke around Maatsen leaving in January, I think there's a lot to that. If I'm him, I'm furious. You're telling me I can't get in at my natural position of left back over a center back who has conceded 4 goals in the last week for our club. It leads me to believe Poach just doesn't trust him in the slightest. Yeah, he played a lot in preseason, but that was an evaluation. I don't think he passed the test, or at least Poach's test, because he looked good to me in preseason. So I don't know. But the last kind of lineup thing that I wanted to check in with you guys on, and this wasn't a controversial one at all. It was one out of necessity. Djorde Petrovic starting in goal over the injured Robert Sanchez. What do you guys make of the former New England Revolution keeper? How did he do in his first start for the club?
I mean, by all stats and accounts, he's the best keeper in the Premier League, right? Clean sheet, perfect save percentage. He's the best keeper in the league. I'm just giving you shit. No, I honestly, I didn't know. I didn't know what I was expecting. He didn't have a ton to do, which I think in an ideal state, that's what you want with a young keeper, is you want to, have them in a game where they don't have to do a ton, right? They're not like, we're not asking them to stand on their head and block everything, right? I think this was, it was fortunate for him that he got a game like this. He looked very controlled with his feet. So I was happy to see that. But again, he wasn't put under a ton of pressure. When he was, I thought he handled it well. Some solid saves, nothing outstanding, but just solid, what we would expect any keeper to do. But yeah, I think it was a good debut for him. It's not something that's, going to set the world on fire, but he did his job. And I think that's kind of all you can ask of him.
And he didn't really have too much of to ask for a distribution. I mean, I thought he passed well. Like he did fine, but none of the passes he made were extraordinary. So he made one solid save, and he was asked to make one solid save, and I'll take it. It'll be interesting to watch him against Newcastle, right? I mean, Newcastle scored 4 on us last time we played them. So our goal was definitely under fire. I think they had like 20 plus touches in our box or something like that. So definitely more pressure filled situations, and they've got guys that can create. So I think we'll have a very interesting topic to talk about next week and see how he does. Because if we keep a clean sheet against Newcastle, I think that's that weighs much higher on all of our collective grading scales.
Parker, when you and I were talking during the game, you had mentioned that you felt much more comfortable with him in goal, with him between the sticks.
Did I say that?
Maybe I'm thinking of Twitter.
I mean, I may have been saying that just to poke the bear if I was, but look, you know, I've kind of come around on where Sanchez is and call him what he is. I thought Petrovic played fine, but I don't know if that I'm more comfortable, especially from a shot saving perspective. I'm still, Sanchez's body of work is a lot bigger, so I trust him more. If I'm gonna put a team together for Newcastle on Tuesday, I'm putting Sanchez in.
I remember now. It was you poking the bear. It was Petrovic better than Sanchez, I believe.
I just said obviously greater than him, right? Obviously way better. It's just shit, man.
I didn't mind what I saw out of him. Yeah, we were talking pre-pod about sample size, Parker, and too small of a sample size. Again, this not even just one game being a sample size. The amount of shots against, the amount of times he touched the ball, it's too small. Give me another couple weeks of him starting. Not necessarily that I want that. Like I like Robert Sanchez. You all know that. But if need be, yeah, throw Petrovic out there, and then we can evaluate. Evaluating against Sheffield is not ideal for a keeper. All right. Well, another topic that seems to be rifling through the Chelsea fan base is Nico Jackson. Of course, our leader in terms of goals at the moment with 8 in all competitions. With his goal this weekend, tied Kai Havertz's team leading 7 from last year. We've only played 17 matches, boys. So that's what we can take away from last year. But Jackson asked about criticism this weekend, said, it's okay. It's not what I was going for, though it is in my first season, so I'm happy. Although everyone is talking shit, I'm very happy. I don't care what people say. There's just people who don't know about football. I will just continue to play more games and score more goals for the team. Now, Matt, he was very clearly addressing you.
He actually DM'd me about that, so
fair. After he DM'd Astrid Wet, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, Matt, I like to think you've been fairly critical of Nico Jackson so far this year. Scores another goal, like I said, tallies Kai Havertz's high from last year. Where do you stand on Nico at this moment, about halfway through the season?
So, from a stat standpoint, he's obviously doing way better than our number 1 striker last year. So that's an improvement. I still think there's a lot of growing that he has to do. I think what I've seen, and I could be wrong, I haven't gone back and looked at his, all of his goals from this year and can't really recall them offhand. To me, it seemed like he kind of finds himself in those spots. I don't want to say like luckily, but he just kind of ends up being, kind of where shit falls. So like it's good, I guess. You don't really see a ton of, with the exception of, I forgot what game it was, but the one goal that he had where he kind of created something out of nothing. But a lot of it is just kind of like simple tap-ins and kind of close range things. I would like to see him grow and kind of expand that a little bit more. At the end of the day, he is producing goals. And like it's hard for me to argue that. I just think that he can do more. And I think that's kind of what most, or a fair amount of the Chelsea fan base are seeing, right? We've talked about the open opportunities that he's had, the Tottenham game, he should have had like 6, right? Like things like that. Obviously he's young, he's still maturing, first season, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But at a certain point, playing for this team with the kind of microscope that we are constantly put under, that fire is going to get real hot real quick. I'm glad that he's kind of shielding a lot of that. At least that's what it seems from his quote. He's kind of shielding that and just kind of staying to himself and focusing on the things that he can control. I think that's a great attitude to have. But at the same time, capitalizing on all those opportunities, like that's what's going to get you in the good graces, not beating Kai Havertz's goal total from last year, which was abysmal by any stretch of the imagination.
I think he has done enough, and we, again, talking about sample size, done enough to not avoid criticism. Everyone deserves criticism, positive, negative, constructive, non-constructive. Everybody's going to get it at all times. But he has pulled his weight on this team. Going back, what was it, Parker? What I tell you, the last person to score more than 15 goals in the league for Chelsea was Eden Hazard.
Yeah.
2018, 2019. 5 years ago, we haven't had a player score more than 15 goals in 5 years. The year after that was Tammy Abraham. 15 goals. Since then, we haven't had a double digit. It's been bad. Nico Jackson has he has the experience now. 16 games, 13 starts, 7 goals and an assist. The sample size is large enough now where it's not just, oh my gosh, this guy doesn't score any good goals. He doesn't score any pretty goals. At the end of the day, that doesn't matter. If you're Jorginho, right, and you're the Premier League team leader with 6 goals and 5 of them are penalties, that's open for criticism. That's a problem. But at the end of the day, what Nico Jackson is showing, scoring this amount of goals, he's on pace. If we double it, 14, add that extra couple, 4 games that we're missing out here, you're putting him over 15 goals in the league this season. What that's telling me is that he is doing the work to get into the right positions. He is making runs. He is creating chances for himself, which is something that this team has been sorely missing for a long time now. And the Matt, I know you hate this, but the analytics back it up. He's in the 98th percentile on non-penalty goals. He's in the 95th percentile on non-penalty expected goals. Shot creating actions, he's in the 84th percentile amongst forwards. Pass completion percentage, which for a forward, whatever, he's in the 90th percentile. Progressive carries, 88th percentile. He's doing what he needs to do. And yes, could he have some more? Absolutely. But all strikers are that way. All of them. There's not a single striker who converts 100% of their chances. So the criticism with Nico Jackson is unfair.
What percentile is he in, should have shot but took too many touches? Our 98th percentile sounds about right for that one too. In pull the trigger FC, right?
I don't think that's an analytic yet, but I appreciate it. Yeah.
Look, I kind of grade Nico the same way I talked about Bobby Sanchez a few weeks ago. Both things are true. He is scoring tap-in goals, and that's a good thing. And he probably should have more, and that's not a good thing. We all look into the positions that he's been in and shake our heads at how he missed. Almost harder to miss in some circumstances than converting. But I like his work ethic. I like what he's doing. There's a lot to his game that I like. And for me, true number 9 doesn't have to score sexy goals. Actually, probably shouldn't score sexy goals. It's headers, it's garbage goals, it's crosses, one touch or no touch or first time goals. It's a lot of garbage stuff. It's not like the prettiest. And my best example of that was Diego Costa. go back and look at his highlight reel, and it's not that impressive. It's not a ton of like super great goals. Olivier Giroud, on the other hand, scored beautiful goals that you were like mind blown how he came up with the creativity and the scorpion kicks and the bicycle kick, like all that stuff. But Diego Costa didn't score anything close to that. He just got himself into the right position and found himself at the right end and converted. I think where Nico needs to figure it out to an extent is just that conversion part, right? He's doing a ton of the right stuff. He's working hard, and like the payoff, that last piece is just where he's lacking that like killer instinct. But yeah, from everything else we've seen, and yeah, I think Collins, you bring up a very fair argument in this one, because 7 goals is a lot, and it's beyond just getting lucky. Matt, you touched on that too, right? Like it's beyond just getting lucky at this stage. No one gets lucky and puts in 7 in the Premier League. I don't care who you are. Like no one just wakes up and finds 7 goals. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. I do think this Chelsea team is creating more in general than the Kai Havertz teams were, and I would be curious to see if we signed Kai Havertz this year and he had never played for Chelsea and he came in, and like, what would he do? Sort of a mentality, but don't really want to run that experiment because it sounds bad in my head, feels dirty in my head, and just doesn't feel right. So I don't really want to do that. It'd be interesting though. But yeah, look, Nico's only going to get better. He's a 25-year-old striker in the Premier League, and this team is still figuring it out to a big extent. Right. And he's still putting in goals. And so if he's setting like the floor at 10, 12 goals, we do lose him, Collins, to AFCON. So I don't know if you can fully assume he's going to double his total by the end of the year. But if he gets 12 goals this year, that's a win. And I think that's where he sets his floor for next year, and only moves up from there. I think a guy like him is going to say like 12 this year, that's not good enough to equal them the following year. It's got to be 15. Yeah, it's got to be 17 then the next year, right? So I think it's good. Can he continue to do it? Can he continue to get better? We'll see. But from what we've seen so far, I mean, I think he gets a lot of unfair slack, but it's just because we see the positions he gets himself into. Like he's almost he's got that little bit of Timo Werner in him, right? Where he's the product of his own success or whatever. His demise is part of his own success, where he got himself into really great positions a lot, and then does he have the balls to finish it off?
So let me, as we close this out, just for kind of food for thought here. The site FBref, which is run by the same people who run Baseball Reference, highly respected baseball analytics stats website. They have a similar thing on Baseball Ref where it's a player comp of all time. Pick a player and it'll give you top 10 most comparable players of all time. FBref has a similar one, but it's over the last 365 days. As I read off this list, think of how many players Chelsea fans were or are clamoring for this club to get. Alexander Isak, Marcus Thuram, Lautaro Martinez, Florian Balogun, Wissam Ben Yedder, Victor Boniface, Randall Kolo Muani, Alexander Lacazette, Karim Benzema, Omar Marmoush. 7 players on that team we have been linked with, and I have seen people like, oh my gosh, why don't we go get them? Why don't we bring them in? They would fix our problems. We have that player, but there's an agenda against him.
I don't know if I'd want any of those players, to be completely honest, but that's just me. I just don't think that they would fit in well. But that's a whole separate conversation. But so let me just say this. I understand like what he's doing right now, and it's great for Chelsea, right? We know we've had a number 9 problem for God knows how long, right? Probably for what, close to a decade. Last one was Diego Costa. I think we can all agree on that. So it's been an issue, and we've tried running through an entire gambit of people to try and fix that problem. I hope Nico can be the solution for that. Again, halfway through his first season, 7 goals. I'm good with that, right? Like, those are numbers that we aren't used to seeing for anybody, much less a striker. So it's like, he's doing great things. He is getting himself into good positions. It's just that final thing, and we've talked about one of the key things that we need from a striker is to be clinical in that final third. I think that's the one thing that he's lacking right now. But when he is firing, like, it's great. Like, it's fun to watch. He's there, he's converting. I understand nobody's going to have 100% conversion rate, right? That's just the way shit works. I just want that conversion rate to be higher than what it is right now. And I think we all do, right? Not only just as fans, but I think even for Nico himself, like, we want him to be confident in scoring those goals, right? I think even a simple tap in, like we saw yesterday, that can speak volumes to confidence. Even just getting one, doesn't matter how you get it, just getting one, and that can be the switch that turns things around. I just hope that he can carry that forward. I think over the 6 months, we've kind of seen, good Nico and bad Nico. I think over the last kind of month-ish, with the exception of the Tottenham game, like, we've kind of seen him fall off a little bit from kind of what we would expect out of him. Like, his work rate is still there, right? We know he's going to hustle after everything, but just some of the more technical stuff and just kind of getting lost out there at times. He's got his time. He's settled in. He knows what's expected of him. He knows that he can produce. We know he can produce. It's just, the word that we always harp on, consistency. Can he do that? I hope he can. I really do. We just need to see it. I think we're having a different conversation if we look at the end of the year and he's still sitting at 7 goals. Then I think that's a different conversation. But for where we're at right now, halfway through the season, I think he's doing his job. I don't think he's blowing anybody's mind right now, but again, he is doing his job. His job is to lead the line and score goals. He is leading the line. He is scoring goals. That's his job description. He is meeting that expectation.
I agree. Shot conversion, very, very important. One last little statistical thing for you guys, because I found this interesting. I'm going to give you 3 sets of numbers, and it's conversion rate. It's shots divided by, or it's goals divided by number of shots. And it's a striker we have and 2 that we've been linked to, one from the Premier League and one from Serie A. I think you can, in your heads, who those people are. 16.9%, 25.7%, 14.2%. Who do you think is who there? Ivan Toney, Victor Osimhen, Nico Jackson.
I know the game that you're playing, so the high one's going to be Nico Jackson.
Nico Jackson, 25.7%.
Yeah.
Victor Osimhen second, 16.9. Ivan Toney, 14.1% conversion rate.
I mean, I'll happily take a man that'll bet on himself
To miss.
It's money in his pocket either way.
All right. Well, hopefully the guy who can unlock a little bit more, maybe push that conversion rate into the 30s for Nico Jackson, set him up a little bit better. Christopher Nkunku was on the bench this weekend. We thought the debut was coming, maybe 70th minute, maybe 80th minute, maybe 85th minute. Didn't see him at all. We do have another match on Tuesday. Are you guys being rational or irrational in your response to Nkunku not playing?
I mean, either way, I'm disappointed. I wish we saw him, especially after we got the second goal. I wish he would have gotten 10 minutes of just actual gameplay. Like, sure, does it really matter? Like, no. In the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? Absolutely not. But would I have liked to see it? Yeah, I would have liked to see it, especially at home. Give the Chelsea fans something that they've wanted to see, which is, him in a uniform out on the pitch. So I think there's a lot of reasons why you do it. And to me personally, there's less reasons why you don't do it. So yeah, I was annoyed, but I don't think it's a huge thing. I don't think it means anything. I think it's just, it is whatever. He's finally back on the bench. We've seen with some of the other players, sometimes they get in for a quick cameo to get back into things. Sometimes they don't. I don't really need to belabor the point. Wish I would have seen him. Not too annoyed that he wasn't out there.
At the risk of sounding like an asshole, but I think that ship's already set sail. I personally don't care. I see the argument both ways. Me personally, you're already up 2-0. You've been rehabbing him for 4 months. What's the reason to throw him out onto the pitch when you're already up 2-0? To me, I don't see any value there, because all you're doing is opening yourself up for risk. Because imagine this scenario. He goes out there in the 70th minute, gets injured 10 minutes later. Then the story is, well, why was he even out on the pitch when we were up 2-0? I think that's just, Parker, that's your risk analysis right there. Your pros, cons, right? I don't see a pro in that scenario at all. Would the game time have really helped him? Hard to say. Who knows if he was even fully fit for whatever he wanted to do. I think he was maybe more on the bench just as an emergency. If they were down, a goal or something like that, then they could bring him on. I don't think the plan was to ever play him. But again, it's good to see him on the bench. I'm not upset that he didn't play. I think with the way that the season has gone with injuries, I think that we did the right thing by not having him out there at all during this match.
See, I think he was medically cleared to participate in the match. We saw with Reece James's comeback that they kind of metered him in, right? 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then he got 60, right? I would have liked to see that start in this one so we could see him feature a little more in a game with a little more pressure, a little bit more implication with Newcastle on Tuesday. This would have been the perfect game for him to come into. You're up 2-0, 75th minute, put him in for 15 minutes, 80th minute, put him in for 10 minutes. There's no pressure. Sheffield weren't really, they were not counter pressing us really to any extent. It was the low block. It's a pressure-free environment for him to come in and get his legs under him going into a match that, with the way this season's going, is a must win. The Newcastle match is a must win if we want to play in Europe next year. Because if you're looking at that league standings and the way we've fared in the Premier League, it's not looking great for that. And if you believe all the rumors about financial fair play and how the budgeting and all that went, we need Europe. We need some form of Europe to go along with that. I understand why Poach did not. I understand, give him another match to rest up. Me personally, I would have liked to seen him get that debut out of the way at home in a match we're already winning, where there's really no risk of him getting injured. But that's me. I hope to God we see him against Newcastle, or that we don't, because we're already up 4-0. One way or the other.
Right. And I'm assuming that if he's making the bench, he's at least cleared for 60, at least, injury free from that kind of perspective. I mean, if he was there just as a showpiece, then he was there for just a showpiece. I hope it's further along than that. I know he's been training and stuff, and so yeah, I because it's gonna take him a minute because he hasn't played in a match, a real match for a while. You can count preseason, but that's not a real match either. So it's like I wish he would have just gotten that 10 minutes of actual gameplay at a slower pace to just kind of work into it. But yeah, I mean, now it's going to be against Newcastle, and it'll be an interesting one. So is that Newcastle match at home, or is that there?
It is home on Tuesday.
Sweet. So hopefully he gets a home reception, and we can pull off a win where we desperately need it.
So looking forward to that match, or looking forward to that match. Again, like I said, at least in my perspective, must win. Carabao Cup carries a little more weight for us this year, I would say. We did get thrubbed by Newcastle just a few weeks ago. Where do you guys, Matt, we'll start with you. Where do you see this one going for Chelsea?
I think it ends up being a 2-2 draw. I could see that. I know Newcastle's been kind of iffy lately. They've had I think a slight dip. I think that European competition is starting to catch up with them. I think they have some injuries as well, some significant injuries as well. So I think, we're starting to see some of the gaps in the armor there. So if anything, now is probably the perfect time to strike, but it's not going to be a pushover game by any means. We know how good that team is. I could definitely see it being, I think there are going to be goals, kind of both ways. So I look at this as 2-2.
So with no replays and it being cup competition, who then do you trust to go through on penalties? Because there's also no overtime in the Carabao Cup this year.
Djorde Petrovic becomes that man. He becomes Kepa 2.0, Mr. Manager. So I'm going to say Chelsea win on pens 6-5.
Wow. Bold. Yeah, I pulled up the lineup that we had and just the storyboard for the Newcastle match last time we played them. And a couple of things stand out. Obviously, the Reece James red card was big, monumentous shift. But then the fact that we also started Leslie Oguchukwu stands out to me as like that's a little interesting. And so with a midfield that has Connor and Enzo and Caicedo, I wonder how we shape up. And then if we start Mudryk on the left, even though Mudryk did not have a great game against Sheffield, in my opinion, I feel like we'll be in a little bit more of a counterattacking position, or a position to counterattack against a Newcastle versus a Sheffield that plays a low block. So I think the biggest thing for me is our defense surrounded around our right and left back. If we can, because we've started James and Cucurella in that match, that's going to be a big change. So we'll see how we can handle them, I guess. But going forward, Matt, to your point, I think there are goals in this one. I think it's an open match, and I think there's 4+ goals in there. So it'll be kind of reminiscent of the City match, in my opinion. Both teams will have chances. Both teams will have opportunities to score. It's who takes them and who kind of converts on more opportunities. So it'll be it'll feel like a heavyweight prize fight a little bit.
Yeah, and I hate to say, or I hate to mention this, because it was the same issue last time we faced them a couple weeks ago, and it did not seem to be an issue. But Kieran Trippier is a maybe. Alexander Isak is a maybe. Lewis Hall ineligible. Joelinton is out. You got some. Was it Shar also got injured against Fulham this weekend? Joelinton is out with an injury this weekend. They have some injury issues, and they are not a deep team. Although Lewis Miley,
Mm-hmm.
Miley, I don't know. Miley looks good. Miley Cyrus looks good out there. So we'll see. I hope that Poach learned from the last time out, because it was an ugly first half, ugly 1-1 first half, and then the red card just kind of sent that match over the top. Don't play Thiago Silva in this one, please. Yeah, I'd like to see Benoit and Disasi, or I don't know, is Fofana close to being back at all? I feel like he's teasing it before every single match at this point.
I don't think he'll be ready for Newcastle.
Fair. But yeah, it'd be nice to see a little bit more non-elderly players in that back line. This would be a good one to put Ian Maatson on the left. Malagusto, hopefully back. I know we're not fully worried about the back line, but we kind of have to be at some point. I liked the pivot this week of Gallagher and Caicedo. I would like to see that again. Have Enzo play a little bit further forward, have Cole Palmer play in that 10 role. I don't really know, but treat this as a Champions League match, because this year it is our Champions League. And honestly, as far as how this match goes, Matt, I'm with you. I think it's close. I don't think 2-2. I'll go 2-1 though. And I'm back and forth on who gets the 2, but at the moment, I'll give it to Chelsea. Nico Jackson brace.
That'd be awesome, man.
On his 2 shots.
On his 7. Gets his 2 goals, but it takes him 7 tries. That's the more likely scenario, which I'll take.
And 4 block shots in there too.
All right. Well, let's turn to a couple fun things before we close out the pod for this week. Number one, we will not be podding on Christmas Eve, which is next Sunday, our usual pod date. So, boys, Merry early Christmas, since we'll be seeing you post Christmas. But if Santa Claus, let's say Papa Bowley's coming down your chimney this year, he's bringing you a Chelsea gift. What are you hoping he's bringing you?
Evidence of Man City going down to the National League. That would really make my Christmas. Just the humor in it alone, it would be fantastic. But I think for me, I just want a healthy team. That's really all I want. I want to see this team operate at its full capacity so that we can get a gauge on where things really are.
So Ava Carniero's coming down your chimney?
Yep. Nice. Have to come through the side door.
So I wanted Matt to go first because I didn't want to steal his thunder if he had thought of this, because this is very much a Matt answer. But if Papa Bowley's coming down the chimney, I want him to bring me back Lewis Hall. There's been rumblings of this, that it's not as clear cut as we all thought that deal was, that his buyback, or whatever it isn't 100% in there. So make that happen, man. I would be ecstatic if we were able to find a way to get Lewis Hall back. This can't happen at Christmas, but at the end of that loan spell, man, that would be a big one. Otherwise, I want another left back. If it's not him, I want another left back, because I don't think we truly have one right now, and I do think we desperately need a backup left back. So give me Alphonso Davies down the chimney. Been saying it for weeks now.
Man, you guys thinking about the club. I appreciate that. Mine is, God, I wanted to bring back the Kevin Garnett TS Commander shoes that they released in 2009 with Chelsea. The blue shoes with the yellow tongue with the Chelsea logo on it. Those were, oh man, the best pair of shoes I ever bought, until I wore them for volleyball and ruined the shit out of them. Bring those back. I want them. All right. Well, make sure to, like I said, check out our Spotify Q&A. That is this week's question. What's Papa Bowley bringing down your chimney this year? But in the meantime, we'll talk man of the match and man and get the fuck out of here, because that's the other thing that we ask for your input on. You can check that out on X after every match. So this week, man of the match, best part of the match for Chelsea, we got 4 nominees. We got Conor Gallagher, Benoit Badiashile, Cole Palmer, and Moises Caicedo. Parker, who you picking?
So probably against the grain here, but I'm giving it to Conor Gallagher because for me, he was the one player that kept us in the match. He was the one player that kept fighting and like really kept getting after it. And he won 3 or 4 balls back in that first half that gave us like kind of that fighter's chance. And I was watching him play, and this team needs a spark. This team needs something to get excited about. And the whole time I was watching it, I was kind of smiling in the back of my mind, thinking like, this is what he does. You know, Collins, you posed that question a couple of weeks ago. What does he do? It's like, this is what he does. He keeps us in games, and he keeps us fighting, and he keeps us believing. And I think he does a lot of that for the team. And as a captain, you know, he did pick up a yellow. He was able to bring it back for the most part and not kind of go into challenges. You saw his aggression, you know, drop a little bit after that, which we all asked for, right? We all asked for him to play a little bit more sensible on a yellow. And he was the reason that, you know, I think we had a really good shot at being able to score those goals to go ahead and not fall behind. So I'm giving it to Conor, even though no goals and assists in the match, but I still think he was kind of the heartbeat of the team.
From just the pure what showed up on the stat sheet, it would be Cole Palmer, right? A goal and an assist. I'm also gonna go a slightly different direction. I'm gonna go with Caicedo. Without having Enzo there as the focal point to drive things forward, we saw a different Caicedo during this match. He was throwing in some of those long balls that we've seen Enzo do, right? He was throwing in some of those. He looked almost more comfortable. I would say kind of going forward and kind of working that pivot with Conor. It looked like he felt more comfortable. And I thought he was just all over the place. I thought he had a really good game, probably one of his best in a Chelsea kit. So for me, Caicedo.
I don't think there's a bad answer here. And, you know, Matt, like you said, I think Cole Palmer runs away with it just because goal and an assist. I'm also going against the grain.
I love this.
Benoit Badiashile, sure-handed back there. Had that scissor kick touch, which was, chef kiss, just amazing. But he looked so sure of himself back there. And now, granted, like we said with Petrovic, you can't necessarily evaluate him against a team that's not really attacking. But I'm pretty sure Benoit won every single one of his aerial duels. Every time they tried to get the ball to Ollie McBurney, Badiashile was there. So it was nice. It was nice to see a sure-handed center back. He got my vote. But we're all wrong. And we all knew we were wrong. It's Cole Palmer with 2/3 of the vote. Caicedo in second with 17%, Gallagher with 11%, Badiashile with about 5.5%. Now, man, to get the fuck out of here is a little bit more interesting, I think. There weren't a whole lot. Man, it's been nice not having a whole shit ton of nominees for this one. So I had to stretch a little bit, but we're going to go Nico Nkunku, the first half, VAR, and Armando Broja. Matt, we'll start with you. Where are you going?
I didn't get that far in my viewing to see Broja, so I'm going to have to rule that one out. I don't know. I mean, if anything, I would say the first half. I mean, we've kind of touched on my thoughts with Nkunku and that whole thing. Out of all that, I would say probably the first half, which again, I didn't think was terrible. like we definitely were creating some chances. It's not the chances that we were used to creating, and just looked a little bit slow, but not overly terrible. But yeah, out of all those choices, I'm gonna have to go with the first half.
I concur, but at a much more definitive reasoning for I thought we were just shit, and I thought that it like if we put in first halves like that across the board, we're losing most of those games. It was a bad first half. It was a bad half of football.
Yeah, the first half, Parker, you said it perfectly earlier. You know, made us pissy, right? Made not too happy. I wasn't happy about Nkunku, but you know, both of those things I would say got rectified. Broya pissed me off. I specifically put that one in there because I've been riding him a little bit the last couple of weeks. But mine was, I didn't vote for this in the moment. I wish I would have. Mine was VAR. Mine was racist VAR. Yeah, first of all, the Nico Jackson goal from Palmer, you know, it is what it is, whatever. That didn't seem like it needed a VAR check. There were a couple calls against us that could, you know, that went to VAR, and we're like, why the hell is that going to VAR? But the first goal, the ball's played to Raheem Sterling, and there's a check to see if Sterling's offside, and we get the view of what they're looking at on the camera. And it zoomed in on Nico Jackson, who's on the other side of the pitch, not offside at all. And, you know, I apologize if this gets us canceled, but it was kind of like they just think all black people look alike. And it was, hey, zoom in on the black guy for me. And I'm sure we won't get the audio, but they zoomed in on Nico Jackson, who wasn't involved in the play. It boggled my mind. And for that, VAR gets it. Just terrible.
It's not a good look, you know. Just overall, it didn't seem like a good look. And then, yeah, it counts to your point. If we got that audio, that would be real interesting to see like what they were talking about back there. Because, yikes! From optically, from our point of view, it didn't look good.
I mean, me personally, I thought the same thing right away, but like 5 seconds later, I was like, oh, they're trying to identify who the last defender was, and it's between one of those two. They were trying to figure out where the line was. So again, not a good look from a viewer's perspective, but that's at least what I was able to take away from it. They were trying to identify the last defender and where that line needed to be drawn.
I appreciate the clarification because, man, I was like, what the fuck is happening?
It looked really sketch when I first saw it. I'm like, why were they like, what does Nico Jackson have to do with anything that happened this play at all? Nothing. What, like, I was confused, but I'm like, the lines. There, the last defenders got it.
There we go, Matt. This podcast will be the official audio for that call.
Not the voice of reason on the pod.
Which has never been said.
So far got 0% of the vote, which has also never been said on this pod. Broya in third with 12. The first half with 25%. The winner was no Nkunku, which people were real fired up with 63% of the vote. So make sure to vote in our polls. Again, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, X, Reddit, Threads. You name it, we're on it. Look us up at Flag Down Pod. Make sure to get your podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, rate, review. If you're on Spotify, oh man, give us a follow there. Give us a rating. It's 1 click, 5 stars. You don't need to type anything. But you can check out, like I said, our Q&A, our poll on Spotify as well. Those are now up every week. So, Matt, I forgot to ask you earlier, so now I'm going to have to real quick forget what you say. But, Matt, what's your closing thought?
Happy holidays and 3 points for Chels.
All right. Well, boys, cheers to whatever that was. See you next week.
Cheers, boys.